the third. High fly ball, right field, Ref Snyder back, he's gonna wave goodbye. It's the first 3-homer game in the career of Jose Ramirez.
Runner takes off, and that ball's going to be chopped through the open right side. Around, the throw comes back to the infield. The runner has scored. Now the throw back into second base goes into center field, and he will circle the bases and score standing up.
So the Red Sox lose. Shocker. They fall to the Yankees 3-1. And now the Red Sox are one game below 500, continuing to have an impressive last place performance in the AL East, and just looking more pathetic by the day, from ownership all the way down to the worst random guy on the roster that none of us have heard of. Just absolutely disgraceful. And yeah, you know, this team sucks right now. And we kind of knew it. Going into the season, this team looked like they were going to have last place, 68 win type team. And sadly, they're somehow exceeding that expectation by not even being 500. So how far have we fallen? You know, this roster blows, like, all the way across the board. Just absolutely horrendous. And, you know, with the Boston Celtics going down 3-0 and then making the comeback to force a Game 7, ultimately blowing it, you know, we know. All of us started thinking about 2004, the Red Sox in 2004. Because they did the comeback, right? The ALCS down 3-0, they come back against the Yankees and they win in 7. And when they had Game 7, unlike the Celtics, they blew out the Yankees. And it wasn't even a home game. So we all started thinking about the 04 Red Sox. And my God, like, besides being more talented, like, duh. The 04 Red Sox had some character. Some personality. Like, yeah, the obvious, you know, you had Pedro and Manny and Ortiz and Schilling and all of these studs on the team, and Damon and Keith Falk. Like, really, really talented players. But you had personalities. You had the Kevin Millars, the Dave Roberts, the Mike Timlins, the great clubhouse guys that were mature, that were fun. That's what that team had. Plus, they had guts and they seemed to actually want to be on the field. And then you fast forward to this 2023 team, and it is blander than a saltine in every way of that definition. Let me ask you a question, because I've asked myself this. How many times have you, like, sought out who the pitcher tonight would be for the Red Sox? Like, a guy that you would be excited to see. For me, 0. This isn't looking to see when Pedro's pitching, or Josh Beckett, or John Lester, or David Price, or Chris Sale, because Chris Sale can't stay healthy. This team has a bunch of scrubs, some relievers that are being converted into starters, and it's just... Then you got starters that are horrendous, like Corey Kluber, that are, hanging curveball away from getting DFA'd. And then, you know, I mentioned the Ortizes and the Mannies and these electric players that weren't just good and talented, but were fun. They're fun to watch. They were bad mother effers. They had swag. How many of those guys do we have on this Red Sox team? Much like the pitcher question, how many guys in the lineup do you, like, look up from your phone when you're scrolling through Twitter like I am during a Red Sox game or whatever and say, I need to watch this guy right now because this dude is different. He's special. And here's the answer. 0. Nobody. They have a bunch of has-beens, the Justin Turners, you know, Hernandez, They extended Devers, but he's not like Manny or Ortiz. Not even close. And look, Yoshida's great. Verdugo's always has a great April. You know, if Steinbrenner was his owner, he'd call him Mr. May. But at least Dave Winfield had talent. Verdugo doesn't. He just slacks and doesn't hustle and then gets benched. I genuinely think that Chaim Bloom is the worst GM of any of the teams that I've rooted for in Boston, in my lifetime at least. I can only speak to that, but he is the worst GM. He runs this team like, you know, like it's Moneyball. He runs this like it's Moneyball, like Oakland or Tampa Bay, because, you know, he was a former Tampa Bay guy. So he's coming up to Boston, this big market, and he's, instead of, you know, using some common sense, he and his data nerds are running SQL and Excel equations to try to come up with some random player that's going to solve all the Red Sox needs. That's what they're going to do. It's like, you know, and it's the famous scene in Moneyball. John Henry wanted Billy Beane, right? The last scene. Billy Beane's at Fenway. John Henry tries to make him, you know, the highest paid GM. Billy ultimately turns it down. You need to be a good father or whatever, I don't know. But now, we're implementing Moneyball in one of the biggest markets in the United States. Isn't that cool? Moneyball. And by the way, like, I find it kind of funny that Moneyball seems to neglect the fact that, you know, that Oakland A team had 3 Cy Young type pitchers, right? Barry Zito, Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder. That was by far the best trio of starters in the league. Like, one of the only comparable of 3 stud starters was like when it was Hamels, Halladay, and Cliff Lee. So yeah, they forgot about that. And oh yeah, you know, that Oakland A shortstop, Miguel Tejada, I don't know if you've heard of him, that hit like 54 home runs that year at shortstop. But yeah, you know, Scott Hatterberg and David Justice. Yeah, that's why the Red Sox won, or the Oakland A's won. That's why. Just like, you know, in 2018, Christian Vasquez. That's why the Red Sox won. Yeah, right? Because he hit a cool home run. Just absolutely disgraceful. John Henry, it's funny with him. You would think an owner that's, you know, brought a city 4 championships, a team that hadn't won in 86 years. You think that John Henry would be beloved in Boston, right? People would be, you know, thanking him and saying he's the greatest, and we love you, John. Thank you. Thank you for everything, for taking us out, you know, getting us over the hump. But you notice that everybody in the city kind of hates him? It's a little strange, right? You know, White Gruspek's only won 1 ring, but nobody seems to have a problem with him. Do you know why? Because at least Wick has tried to win and seems to care as a fan. John Henry, he's looking at the Red Sox at this point as revenue, cost, and profit. He's looking at it like a business in the Fenway Group portfolio. That's it. He's not a fan. He doesn't care. He's not reading the box scores anymore. It's revenue. It's cost. You know, now we got to pay for Nesson Plus. Just a joke. This team is so boring to watch. You know, in the offseason, I was pretty upset, right? The Red Sox were so cheap with Xander Bogaerts, he ultimately went to San Diego. They didn't really give JD an offer, he went to LA. Nate Eovaldi, they didn't want to bring him back, they wanted Corey Kluber, right? Yeah, Corey Kluber. So Eovaldi went to the Rangers, and then Michael Wacha left, and he was a little more low-key last year, but he was great. And what's happened with those guys? JD's returned to form, like the 2018 type form. And crazy enough, the May AL and NL pitcher of the month was Nate Eovaldi in the AL and Michael Wacha in the NL. So the Red Sox cheaped out. They cheaped out. They thought Rafi Devers, like that was the grand gesture that we were going to get in Boston. And look, Rafi's good, but he's not on the Manny, the Ortiz, the Nomar. He's not like any of those guys. He's a great hitter, but he's not a face of a franchise. He doesn't have the personality. Because those teams wanted to be out there, and these Red Sox teams are going through the motion. It's sick. I'm indifferent now, too, and I think a lot of fans are becoming indifferent. Because when it feels like an ownership group doesn't want to build the best team, and the GMs, run in Excel formulas to pick the team, and the players and don't really seem to want to be there, and Alex Cora is starting to look checked out. Why is a fan going to dedicate 4 hours? And yeah, I know it's 3 now because of the pitch clock, but you know what I mean. It's very bad, and Boston fans deserve better. This city deserves better. It's a disgrace. I hope John Henry sells the team. And at minimum, after another last place finish, 4 mediocre to bad seasons in 5 years. After that, just fire Chaim Bloom. Bring somebody in. Do what you do best, John Henry, and overreact when nobody's watching NESN. And go spend a lot of money this offseason and try to salvage it. And let's just hope it's not Hanley Ramirez and Pablo Sandoval type guys you sign. All right?